can sit up on a couple blankets if you have them, particularly if you are having any lower back strain or tension. It's generally speaking pretty good to sit up on some height. It helps you kind of lift up out of the stiffness of the lower back, and it helps release the lower groin as well. And sometimes when the groins are tight, that also creates a strain in the lower back. And take your hands and put them underneath your feet and turn the soles of the feet up toward the ceiling. Then take your hands and move your calf flesh up toward the ceiling. Then put one hand on your inner right thigh and the other hand on your outer right thigh and turn your thigh from the inside out. And you start off at the, this is how I do it. I start out at the top of the thigh and turn. And then I just kind of work my way down my thigh. So I might do like 3 or 4 turns, moving from the top of the thigh to the knee. And then I do the same thing on the other side. Hey, Pratima. Good to see you. And also, hopefully you may feel in that external rotation of the thighs that the sitting bones draw in a little bit more, and that you should feel a lift coming into your chest. And lengthen up through your side ribs and roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit, so you really feel that chest get well lifted and broad. And really, the more you can move those shoulder blades down, that encourages the trapezius to release down as well. And that should help release some tension in your neck. Then keeping your chest well lifted and broad, close your eyes and fold your palms together at your heart. Use your thumbs to lift the sternum up, and as you do that, that should let the trapezius release as well. Use your forearms to lift the rib cage up, and you'll feel a broadness come across the collarbones. And then turn your awareness to your breath. As you inhale, make yourself taller from the tailbone all the way up through the head. Keep that height, and as you exhale, move the prana, or the energy of the breath, outward towards your side ribs. Inhale, make yourself tall. Keep that height. Exhale, make yourself broad. Inhale, extend yourself. Exhale, expand yourself. Use the breath to create additional inner spaciousness. And just become aware in your mind of that fact that you've created inner spaciousness. And consciously turn your awareness from the outer world to that inner landscape. You can do that just as a mental change of circumstance, but also you can use your breath, particularly the exhalation. So on the inhalation, keep your chest nice and lifted and broad, but on the exhalation, follow the exhalation with your mind, like it's a pathway or a thread that you can follow from the outer world toward the inner world. Again, that inner landscape of you, the domain of yoga. Use your exhalations to take your awareness there. And then from that space within, let's chant 3 M's. Follow that sound with your mind. Follow the reverberation of the sound. From that space in balance. Your chest well lifted and broad, and bring your chin down to your chest. And your hands down to your thighs with your palms up. And raise your head. And just notice which leg you have in front. I've got my right leg in front. And stretch your legs out into Dandasana step pose. Join your big toes together. Spread your other toes wide apart. And then from the little toe side of the foot, draw all the way up into the outer hip. So you should hopefully feel your outer hips firm, which should help with some tension in the lower back. And if you have a brick, place a brick behind you on the floor. 2 little shoulder things close by, so that's what I'm using. And then reach both of your arms up into Urdhva Hastasana and Dandasana. Turn your triceps from the outside in and reach up through your ring fingers. Then put your right hand on the floor down behind you on the brick and lift your left arm up even more. So you want to create height in the spine by pressing down with your fingers and lifting up through your other hand. So you're getting nice and long. And then place your hand on the outside of your thigh. And then as you exhale, turn and rotate yourself around to the right. Inhale, lift up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate yourself around. Inhale, lift up, make yourself tall. And exhale, turn and rotate yourself around again. Now, as you come back to the center, press your hand against your leg and your hand on the floor behind you and turn and make yourself taller as you come back to the center. And then reach your arms up again into Urdhva Hastasana. Make your leg action strong. Lift your quadriceps, your inner thighs and your outer thighs, and stretch up through your ring fingers. Then bring your left hand down on the floor and reach up with your right hand. Make yourself super, super tall. And then bring your hand down to the outside of your knee. And then lift up through the sides of the torso and roll your shoulders back. And then as you exhale, turn and rotate yourself around a little bit more. Inhale, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, turn and rotate. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, turn and rotate. Now, as you come back to the center, push with your hand against your leg and push with your hand on the floor so you get taller as you come back to the center. So twists can really help alleviate lower back pain, but you want to make sure that you're not sinking down into like the part of your back that feels stiff. So you really want to make sure as you're twisting that you create length and space, and then you maintain that after you finish the twist. And we'll do some more twisting here. The twists are also good for the neck and the shoulders and the upper back too. All right, so now bring your opposite leg into Swastikasana. So I had brought my left leg in first, and now I've got my right leg in first. Take your hands and turn the soles of the feet up toward the ceiling. That just gets you a little bit more into the top of the foot. Then take your hands and move your calf flesh up toward the ceiling. And then this one is the one that really is, for me, even extra important, is really externally rotating the thighs. And you squeeze the thigh with both of your hands. And then you turn the thigh from the inside out. And you can kind of lift up a little bit so you can do that. And then work your way down your thigh. So you kind of start off up near the top of the thigh, then go to the middle of the thigh, and then go close to the knee. Sometimes if my knee is bothering me, I don't like to do that twist of the knee. So if that feels like it's too much on a knee joint or something, you don't have to do that one. And then do the same thing on the other side. And then all of that just organizes the base of your toes, just by spending a few minutes doing those manual adjustments. Then press the tops of the feet down onto the floor and energetically lift your ankles up, and you should feel a lift come all the way up into the chest. And stretch your arms out. Interlace your fingers and turn your palms toward me. Straighten your arms as much as you can, and then lift your hands right above your head if you can. Straighten your arms by extending from the elbows through the wrist bones. Now press those feet down and energetically lift the ankles up and connect that lift all the way up through the rib cage, through the armpits, all the way up into the wrist bones. Make yourself tall. So keep that height as much as you can on your side ribs as you bring your hands down. Switch the grip of your fingers, so you put the other finger on top. You may feel like you're holding someone else's hand. And then stretch your arms out straight. From your elbows, extend through your wrist bones. Then reach your arms all the way up above your head. Then connect back in with the base again. Press your feet down and energetically lift your ankles up. You'll feel firmness come into the outer hips, and then reach up through your arms, as much as you can through the wrist bones. And maybe you'll feel your abdomen draw in toward the spine a little bit. Keep that length in the side ribs as you release your hands down. And then stretch your legs out into Dandasana again, staff pose. Switch. I have a little cabin casita up in Waco where I stay when I work with Baylor and stay with my dad who lives in Waco. And it is not as optimal a space for teaching yoga on Zoom as my yoga room at home in Austin, because it is significantly smaller, so it's a lot harder to get the angles quite correct. But that aside, here we are doing yoga in less than optimal circumstances. There's chai as well. Okay. All right. Then press the big toes together against each other. And just doing that, you should feel some energy coming into your quadriceps. Spread your toes away from your big toes, and you should still feel any more engagement coming into the quadriceps. Then extend from the little toe side of the foot into the outer hip, so you feel that lift coming all the way up into the, firmness coming into the outer hips. Then one more time, lift your arms up into Urdhva Hastasana and Dandasana. Lift up through both hands and then swing your right arm back down behind you on the floor and lift up even more with your left hand. Now this time, put your hand more on the middle of your thigh. I didn't actually specify the first time, but the first time I had my hand on more on this around the knee. This time I have my hand right on the middle of the thigh, and just by changing that hand position, it's going to change how you feel the twist in your lower back. So keep your leg action as firm as you can. That's really important for the lower back actions. And then extend up from the tailbone all the way through the head. So you've really got to maintain that height. And then as you exhale, turn and rotate yourself around to the right. Keep your leg action strong, and as you inhale, lift up from the tailbone through the head. Keep that height, and then as you exhale, turn and rotate yourself around again. And one more time, inhale, lift up from the tailbone through the head, and then exhale, turn and rotate yourself around. This is a pose called Parshva Dandasana. Now this is the really important aspect of twisting to alleviate lower back issues. Is when you come back, press down with both of your hands and actually create more length as you come back to the center. We have a tendency to kind of sink down when we do that. All right, then second side, lift your arms all the way up. Turn your triceps from the outside in and extend up from your ring fingers. Maintain that height as you bring your hand down back behind you, left hand down behind you, and reach up with your right hand. And then bring your hand to the outside of the middle of your thigh. Check back in and still make sure you're working your legs. Press your big toes against each other, spread your other toes, and lift up from the little toe into the outer hip. Then turn. Put your hand against your thigh to help yourself turn and rotate. Inhale, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head, and then exhale, turn and rotate yourself around. Lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. Exhale, turn and rotate. And one more time, lengthen up from the tailbone through the head, and exhale, turn and rotate. And then again, push with your hand on the floor, push with your hand against your leg, so when you come back to the center, you actually get taller. All right, then take your right hand on the inside of your knee again and pull your leg up into Swastikasana. And then do the same thing with the other leg. Use your hands to turn your feet up toward the ceiling. Use your hands to turn your calf flesh. Use your hands to turn your thigh flesh. You're sitting really nicely in Swastikasana. And that turning also really brings the sitting bones in, so you feel a nice lift coming all the way into the chest. Now hook your right thumb over your left thumb. And then pull your thumbs against each other and stretch your ring finger, well, all of your fingers, but particularly stretch through your ring finger towards the screen. Usually this hand position, it's a little bit easier to get the arms straight because there's less required of the wrist. And then reach your arms all the way up above your head. And you may notice in terms of the neck and the shoulder issues that this particular arm stretch touches the top of the shoulder blades a little bit more. The first one we did more touches the middle shoulder blades. Okay? And so just by changing the hand position and having the arms above your head, you get a little bit just a different focus of where the pose actually goes. Okay? Then bring your hands down. Switch the grip of your thumb, so you put the other thumb on top of the thumb, and then pull your thumbs against each other. Now it may feel really different, hooking one thumb over the other thumb. For me, it feels even more different with the thumb hook than it does with the finger hook. Now pull your thumbs against each other and really stretch through your ring fingers to get your arms straight, and then stretch your arms all the way up above your head. Pull your thumbs against each other, stretch through your ring fingers, and really feel that stretch in the shoulder blades as much as you can. And then release your arms down. Stretch your legs out into Dandasana again. We're going to do one more Parshva Dandasana, but this time you're going to bring your hand to the outer hip. Okay. All right, so start off reaching up into Urdhva Hastasana. Stretch up well and bring your right hand down behind you and lift up with your left hand. Really create length in that left side of the body. And then bring your hand right to the outer right hip. Keep your leg action strong and lengthen up from the tailbone through the head. And as you exhale, rotate yourself around. Now this hand position, I really feel it even more across the lower back and the sacral region. So as you inhale, lift up from the tailbone through the head, and as you exhale, turn and rotate. Push your hand against your leg and rotate a little bit more. Then inhale, lengthen up and make yourself tall, and one more turn over to the right. And then push your hand against your thigh and your hand into the floor as you come back to the center so you maintain that good space that you got in the turning sensation. Then reach your arms up one more time. All this is working the shoulders and the neck as well. Reach your left hand down behind you and reach your right arm up high. Really create space in that right side of the torso as you bring your hand down to the outer right hip, left hip, sorry. Check back in and make sure you're still working the muscles of your legs. And then inhale up from the tailbone through the head. And as you exhale, turn and rotate yourself around to the left. As you inhale, make yourself tall. And as you exhale, turn and rotate yourself around. One more time, lift up from the tailbone through the head. And then exhale, turn and rotate yourself around. Now, when you come back to the center, make sure you don't lose the height and just turn yourself all the way back to the center. All right, then cross your legs the opposite way, just so we're even in our leg actions. And then stretch your arms out to the sides, like you're doing a standing pose. Let your trapezius muscles release away from your neck and extend through your ring fingers, but draw back from your little finger into your outer shoulder. Then move your arms back behind you a little bit more and feel how that broadens the collarbones. Let your trapezius release down. Move your arms back again to feel the opening in the collarbones. Let your trapezius release. Now rotate the palms, and it's really the whole shoulder bone that's rotating up. So the palms rotate toward the ceiling, and then just reach your arms up into plain old Urdhva Hastasana. Get your arms as straight as you can. Turn the triceps, let the trapezius release down, stretch up through your ring fingers, and make yourself tall. And release your hands down. Go ahead and come forward. You can stretch out your legs if you need to, but go ahead and come forward so that your hands are on the floor in front of you. Spread your palms well. Turn your triceps so that the biceps go toward the front of the room, or toward the screen, I guess I'll say. Press your elbows, suck your elbows in and extend through the thumb and the first finger. From the little finger, draw up into the outer shoulder and turn your toes under, and then push back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And so we did a fair bit of work already, just sitting on the floor, opening the hips and opening the shoulders with the arms above the head. And we also did quite a bit of twisting. And so after twisting, it's nice to balance the twisting with the straight or symmetrical pose like downward facing dog. Then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. And stand into Tadasana, mountain pose. One of my favorite Iyengar teachers is a woman named Lori Blakeney. She did, last year, right before COVID. She was the last yoga teacher I hosted, but she came to Yoga Tree But one of the things I'm just mentioning that is she has this approach to doing poses where she often starts with a lot of seated work, like we just did, like sometimes twist, sometimes bending forward. But all that seated work actually releases the groin. And that helps a lot with lower back issues. And sometimes you can really feel when you stand up that what happens as a result that there's kind of an opening in the front groin. You may feel like taller through the pelvic region. So lift your quadriceps, lift your inner thighs, and lengthen up through your side ribs. Roll your shoulder bones back. Bring your shoulder blades in, away from the neck, and into the center of the body and up a little bit. So you really feel that chest get nice and lifted and broad. Then stretch your arms out in front of you again, and just come up into Urdhva Hastasana while you're standing. And it's actually easier to actually get your arms lifted and straight when you're standing, but particularly because we've already done it while we're sitting. Now hold on to your, I'm just gonna come forward so you can see a little bit. I'm holding on to my left wrist with my right hand, okay? So I got my arms above my head, but I'm holding on to the left wrist with the right hand. And then I'm using my right hand to lift my left wrist up even further. And it's not just the wrist, I get a lengthening in the whole side of the body. And then go ahead and tip over a little bit to the right side. And as you do that, pull even more with your hand and your wrist. So hopefully what you'll feel is that there's a lengthening from the side of the pelvic bone through the rib cage, through the armpit, all the way through the fingers, that you're making yourself longer. Now, as you come back to the center, again, it's kind of the same principle as the twist. Don't sink. Pull with your hand against your wrist and come back to the center. Then switch hands. So now you're pulling your right wrist with your left hand and you're lifting up. So hopefully you're lifting up so much that you really feel like almost like someone else was pulling on you. So you're getting longer through the pelvic bones, through the waist, through the ribs, through the armpits, and then tip over to the side a little bit. And when you tip to the side, it's actually to help you get longer through the sides of the torso. And then come all the way back up to the center. And then release your hands down. And go ahead and bring your hands right in front of you into Paschimma Namaskarasana, like we did when we were sitting. Use your thumbs to lift the sternum up and feel how the trapezius muscles release away from the neck. Use your forearms to lift the rib cage up and you'll feel your collarbones get broader. Then keep your palms pressing against each other and just reach your arms up into a pose that's called Urdhva Namaskarasana. As much as you can, press your palms against each other and stretch through your ring fingers. And try and keep your trapezius muscle releasing away. All right. Then turn your palms, swing your arms around behind you, and see if you can do the third Namaskarasana, which is where you bring your hands behind your back into Paschimma Namaskarasana. Might not work. You can have your hands pretty low on your back. But try and keep your collarbones broad. Move your elbows a little bit forward toward the screen and see if you can get the heel of your hand together. Good. And then release. And let's try that one more time. Stretch your arms all the way up into Urdhva Hastasana. Keep your leg action strong. Hold on to your left wrist with your right hand and reach up even more. So you're really getting maximal length through that side of your torso, and then tip over and keep pulling. So you're really press down through your heels, but reach up through your sides as much as you can. Come back to the center. Switch hands. Press down into your heel and pull up with your wrist or your hand against your wrist and tip over. And then come back to the center. Come back to Urdhva Hastasana. Should be even more opening in the armpits now. And then fold your palms together in Namaskarasana. I mean, partly it's like, like Chaya said, I really loved her description of what the yoga means to her. It's a devotional act. And so Namaskarasana is really a representation of that. That we you know, it's a symbol of reverence. It's also a symbol, some teachers have explained it to me, that your thumb against yourself is an acknowledgement of your essential self. Your middle fingers are moving up toward God, or however you consider the higher divinity of the world. And then the little finger is moving outward toward other people. Right? And so the devotional act is all encompassing, much like a yoga practice. Now keep pushing your thumbs and palms against each other and reach your arms all the way up again into Urdhva Namaskarasana. That means upward Namaskarasana. Now this one's hard. You really, it's part of tree pose in the second pose of the book, Line in Yoga. So you really have to turn your triceps from the outside in, press your palms against each other, and really stretch up through your ring fingers. Kind of like when you were pulling on the wrist with the hand, now you've got to push both hands against each other to get that same feeling of lift. Now keep that extension through the sides of the torso as you turn your palms down and come into Paschima Namaskarasana behind your back. Now, if you really can't do that because of issues with your wrists, you can just hold your hands behind your back, or you can bind your elbows. But just doing something that stretches the shoulder now in this behind the back plane. Good. These all look really good. All right, then release your hands and one more Urdhva Namaskar over Urdhva Hastasana. It should feel very open. At least for me, my shoulders are really feeling like they're getting more loose and more pliable just from doing these very basic poses. Then release your hands down. Bend your knees, move toward the front of your mat and put your hands on the floor. Spread your palms well. Turn your triceps back toward the wall behind you so that your biceps come forward toward the screen. Keep your arms as straight as you can. And then push back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. So we just did an extra round of shoulder work. So see if you can actually feel the difference in your downward facing dog. Like maybe you feel maybe you feel more opening in the armpits. Maybe you feel more weight coming into your back legs. Maybe you feel more release in your trapezius muscles. Just notice what you observe. And then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back. And come all the way back up and stand in Tadasana. And see if your Tadasana feels different also. I was actually teaching a yoga class this semester at Baylor. I'm teaching a senior capstone class that's on yoga and philosophy. And it's at 3:45 to 3:30 to 4:45. And we did Tadasana today. But I'm actually noticing that like Tadasana now just feels very different. You know, after my day of work is kind of over, I am appreciating the grounding of Tadasana differently than when I was in the midst of actually my work day. And so you may just observe that in your own practice. What's a morning Tadasana feel like? What's a middle of the day Tadasana feel? What does it feel like at different stages of the day? It's the same pose, but just because you're in a different experience of your life, it'll have different resonances for you. Okay, let's do tree pose. Okay, so turn your right leg out, lift your leg up, and place your heel as high on your thigh as you can. Push your heel and your thigh against each other and you'll feel a lift come all the way up into your chest. Then bring your hands into Namaskarasana again. Bring your hands into Urdhva Namaskarasana. And this is a little tricky balance-wise, but see, can you actually bring your hands back into Paschima Namaskarasana, even as you're standing in tree pose? It takes a little bit more concentration. But I like to imagine it's kind of like branches of the tree moving in the wind in different directions. Then back from Paschima Namaskarasana, and then bring the foot down. And then do the same thing on the other side. Turn your leg out and lift your leg up. Place your heel as high on your thigh as you can. Push your foot and your thigh against each other and you'll feel a lift come into your chest. Bring your hands into Paschimottanasana Namaste and really push that sternum up with your thumbs. Feel the trapezius release down. Then reach your arms up into Namaste. Press down through both heels and reach up through your ring fingers so you feel yourself getting into a super tall tree. Then turn your palms down, bring your hands back behind you, and see if you can just sneak yourself into Paschimottanasana Namaste. And then release your hands and join your feet and come back into Tadasana. And walk forward closer to the front of your mat again. Bend your knees. Put your hands down on the floor. Spread your palms well. Turn your triceps back behind you so your biceps come toward the front of the room. Extend from the elbow through the thumb and the first finger. And walk your feet back into downward facing dog again. Press your hands down and forward and pull the weight of the pose back into your legs. These look good, everyone. Everyone can move their feet a little bit further back, but not a lot. You're doing a good job of keeping your arms straight. All right, then walk forward till your feet are right underneath your hips. Place your hands on your pelvic bones. Roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. You can either turn your mat so you can turn your screen, or it doesn't really matter to me, but you want to be at the long edge of your mat now. Okay? So you don't even have to be facing your screen. You can be sideways. Unless you want to face your screen, then you have to either move your mat or your screen. But start with your feet out wide apart and pretty wide. And so if you were to stretch your arms out, your ankles would be right underneath your wrists. Lift your quadriceps and your inner thighs and put your hands on your hips. Then roll your shoulders back. Shoulder blades in, away from the neck and into the center of the body and up a little bit, and look up toward the ceiling like you're doing a little mini back arch. So you get lots of opening in the front of your body. And keeping your legs strong, keeping the sides of the torso long, fold forward and bring your hands down to the floor where your hands are right underneath your shoulders. And then turn your triceps back so your biceps come forward, just like downward facing dog. This is the concave stage of Prasarita Padottanasana. Then walk your hands back where they're in line with your feet and still look forward, and that gives your wrists, back of your wrists, a little bit of a stretch. Then bend your elbows straight back and bring your head, if you can, all the way down to the floor. If it doesn't touch the floor, you can decide. You can let it hang if that feels okay to you, but you can also raise the floor up. Okay? You could put a brick underneath your head. Try and get your legs straight. It looks good, everyone. All right, then look forward again. Walk your hands back where they're right underneath your shoulders. You may need to walk your feet in a little bit. And then place your hands on your hips and roll your shoulder bones back and come all the way up. All right. If you do headstand, go ahead and do it. This is the headstand part of class. If you don't do headstand, it's totally fine. You can repeat downward facing dog, which we did earlier, or you can repeat the Prasarita Padottanasana, which is the pose that we just did. Or you can just interlace your hands and your elbows and fold forward and just let your head hang down toward the floor. And that's called Uttanasana. Though if your back is bothering you, that might not be the best choice. Okay. You want to just do something where you can get your head below your heart for a little while. Okay. And so that doesn't have to be headstand, that some of you are doing it. It could be, again, it can be downward facing dog again. It could be Prasarada Padottanasana, the pose we just did again. It could be Uttanasana again. And just anything that just gives you a little bit more time with your head below your heart. It's a very nice thing to do at the end of the day. It just kind of lets any thought and pressure built up over the day release. This looks good, everyone. Now, those of you in headstand, really press your forearms down, lift your shoulders up, and extend up through the feet. Those of you who are in Prasarada Padottanasana or downward and chai, you be sure and come down and rest with that one because it is a little bit more muscularly tiring. Okay, but Prasarada Padottanasana looks very good. Okay, so just keep on working your quadriceps, lifting up through the inner thighs, and more just trying to let your torso hang down. If you need to come up and take a break and go back in, it's totally fine. It's a nice headstand, Pratima. Rebecca, that looks pretty good. Rebecca, just flex your toes down a little bit toward the floor, and then you'll feel that your inner ankles really lengthen more, and then try and maintain as you come all the way back up. Shiva, that's a really nice work on the shoulders, but lift them a little bit more, like pull up on your ankles and then see how your shoulders release away from your ears a little bit more. Okay, good job, everyone. So people in headstand come down and rest in downward facing child's pose. People in Prasarada come up, and then go ahead, and also the people who are in Prasarada Padottanasana, you go ahead and rest in downward facing child's pose too. So everyone just go ahead and come down onto the floor in downward facing child's pose. If you need to put something underneath your head to just be a little bit more comfortable, that's totally fine. Downward facing child's pose is also a pose that's really good for the lower back. And there are lots of ways to do it. Sometimes if you have lower back pain, it feels good to put a blanket between your abdomen and your thighs. All right, good. And then just go ahead and sit yourself back up. And go ahead and get the strap. Okay, we're going to work on Supta Padangusthasana, which is laying down on the floor and stretching your legs out. It's also really good for the lower back, and some parts of it are good on the shoulders. I'm going to try and arrange my camera where you can at least see part of what I'm doing. All right, so I've got my legs out straight, and I'm laying down on the floor, and this is called Supta Tadasana. And Supta Tadasana also, you can actually work this a little bit. Everyone go ahead and bend your knees a little bit. And then hold on to the sides of the sticky mat and tuck your shoulder, and then pull the sticky mat away from your head, and you'll feel your trapezius muscles release away from your neck. Then straighten your legs out, and hopefully you'll feel that your buttock flesh moves toward your heels and that your abdomen draws in toward the spine. Now keep your left leg very firm and stable on the floor. bend up your right leg and put the strap on your shin. And pull your bent right leg in closer to your torso. As you inhale, move your thigh a little bit away from your abdomen. Straighten your left leg more. And as you exhale, pull your right leg in, and you should feel that your abdomen releases in a little bit, and that gives you a little bit more room to pull the leg in toward your abdomen. Inhale, move your thigh away from your torso a bit. And as you exhale, pull your leg in a little bit more. Straighten your left leg. And then one more time, inhale, move your leg away from your torso. Straighten your left leg. And as you exhale, pull your leg in. Right, then just straighten your right leg out. And see if you can feel a little bit of a difference between your right side and your left side. Maybe your abdomen feels drawn in a little bit more. Maybe your leg feels a little bit straighter. And then do the same thing on the other side. So keeping your right leg as straight as you can, bend your left knee up. Put the strap on your shin. Keep your right leg super, super straight. And as you exhale, pull your left knee in closer to your torso. As you inhale, pull your thigh a little bit away from you. As you exhale, keep your right leg super, super straight and pull your left leg in closer to you. And one more time, as you inhale, move your thigh away from your torso, straighten your right leg, and as you exhale, you'll feel your abdomen draw in and then pull your leg in closer to your torso. And then release that leg back down to Supta Tadasana. And hopefully both of your legs feel like they're a little bit more settled with the floor. Keep your left leg as straight and firm as you can and bend your right knee. Put the strap on the ball of your right foot and straighten your leg up toward the ceiling. Try and get both legs as straight as you can. You have the strap on the ball of the foot, so you can actually push the big toe side of the foot into the strap like you're stepping on a gas pedal. And pull the little toe side of the foot with the strap down a little bit so that outer facet of your hip pulls in. Then you can see about pulling your right leg in closer to your torso so you get more hamstring stretch, but keep your left leg straight. Then bring the leg back to just straight 90 degrees. Put your left hand on your left thigh, and as you exhale, move your right leg out to the side for the pose that we call Supta Padangusthasana 2. Try not to tip over with the right leg. So you want to keep as stable and firm as you can on your left leg as you move your right leg over to the side. And feel that opening that comes on the inner thigh. It should feel pretty good. Does for me. Right. And close the fold of the knee and just make the knee be folded, point your foot and see if you can get the little toe side of your foot all the way up at the top of the left thigh. And just do a little bit of deposits in the bank toward Padmasana or half Padmasana. Then you're going to retrace your steps. So you're going to go from half Padmasana back out to Supta Padangusthasana 2, and it should feel a little bit more free in that Supta Padangusthasana 2. Then hoist back to Supta Padangusthasana 1, and then lower your leg back down to Supta Tadasana. And just like we did after the Ardha Pavanuktasana, see if you can feel a difference between the right side and the left side. Like on me right now, my right side feels longer and more connected with the floor. The abdomen feels drawn in a little bit more. And it makes it easier to keep the right leg on the floor. Bend your left leg up. Put the strap on the ball of the foot and straighten your leg. Keep your right leg straight. Keep your left leg straight. Then if your hamstrings allow it, and you can move your left leg in closer to your torso, keeping both legs straight. Go ahead and do that. Extend from the buttocks to the heel as you do that and pull the leg in. Now keeping your right leg as firm and stable as you can. In fact, keeping the whole right side of the body as firm and stable as you can. Move the left leg over to the left, out to Supta Padangusthasana 2. Feel the opening that comes in the groin. Close the fold of the knee and point your foot and put the little toe side of the foot on the top of the right thigh. And open that left inner groin and Padmasana. Now we're going to retrace our steps. So from Padmasana, you straighten the leg back out to Supta Padangusthasana 2. You may feel a little bit more freedom coming into your Supta Padangusthasana 2, at least I do. And bring your leg back up to Supta Padangusthasana 1. And then lower the leg back down into Supta Tadasana. And that is called the Supta Padangusthasana cycle. That looks pretty good, everyone. All right, then bend your knees up. Hold on to the sides of the sticky mat again. Now we're doing the pose that's called Chatushpadasana, but we're going to add the interlaced fingers underneath the buttocks. Okay, so press your heels down and lift your buttocks up high. Hold on to this, and you'll feel your hamstrings and your buttocks engage, hopefully. Hold on to the sides of the sticky mat with your hands and tuck your shoulders underneath you more. Hold the sticky mat toward your feet, and you should feel your trapezius release and your chest get more open. Now, if you can, interlace your fingers underneath your buttocks on the floor and tuck your shoulders underneath you more. If you can't do that, then you can use a little strap to hold on to, or you can just hold on to the sides of the sticky mat still. And pull your fingers toward your feet and move your chest toward your chin, and you'll feel even more opening in the chest. And release your hands and lower yourself down into the floor again, and just feel that nice opening that comes into the chest and the shoulders. We're going to do that one more time. So hold on to the sides of the sticky mat with your hands first and pull the sticky mat toward your feet. Then press your feet down and lift your buttocks up high. Move your hamstrings and your buttocks toward each other so you feel some firmness coming into that part of the body. Then hold on to the sticky mat again and pull. And you'll feel the trapezius release. Then interlace your fingers the other way and tuck your shoulders underneath you. Pull your fingers toward your feet and move your chest toward your chin and feel even more opening coming. Then release your hands down, lower yourself back down, and just feel all that vitality coming into the chest. And then roll to your side and set up to do legs up the wall pose. If you have a bolster or a couple blankets that you want to put underneath your buttocks, you can do that. Or you can just be flat on the floor. But just find a space for legs up the wall pose. Feel yourself in. Tuck your shoulders underneath you. Make sure your buttock flesh is moving toward your feet. If you don't have wall space, you can put your legs up on the sofa. That would be fine. Just lay to the side of the sofa and fling your legs up on the sofa. That's practically the same thing, and in some ways better. There you go. Perfect. All right. Good job. Let your eyes release into the back of your head. Let your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. And clench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears draw inward. Completely relax the features of your face. Become quiet within. Now, when your legs are elevated like this, it's good for like blood circulation and things like that. But it's also, you should also feel that same drawing inward of the abdomen that you probably felt in other parts of class. And so you can follow that drawing in of the abdomen with the breath. So each time you exhale, see if you can just feel how that abdomen smooths down toward the spine. And then keep the abdomen drawing down toward the spine and take a few seconds longer to inhale your breath than you normally would. Moving from the abdomen through each individual rib, up into the top chest and out to the edges of the collarbones. Keeping your chest well lifted and broad, take a few seconds longer to exhale your breath than you normally would. Moving from the top chest through each individual rib, down into the abdomen, into the perineum itself. And do a couple of that's called Ujjayi 4. It's a pranayama breath where you prolong both the inhalation and the exhalation. And we're going to do that 3 more times, but we're going to do normal breaths in between. So as you inhale and exhale, and after your next normal exhalation, exhale completely. In this position, it's really easy to feel how that exhalation draws down toward the spine. And keeping the abdomen drawing in toward the spine, inhale the breath from the base of the pelvis, through the abdominal region, through each individual rib, all the way up into the top chest and out to the edges of the collarbones. Keeping your chest well lifted and broad, take a few seconds longer to exhale your breath than you normally would. Moving from the top chest, through each individual rib, into the abdomen, into the base of the pelvis. Follow that exhalation with your mind as long as you can. And then do a couple of normal inhalations, couple of normal exhalations. Normal inhalation and normal exhalation. And after your next normal exhalation, exhale completely. Keeping the abdomen drawing in toward the spine. This will be the last one that we do. Take a few seconds longer to inhale your breath than you normally would. Moving from the base of the pelvis, through the abdominal region, through each individual rib, all the way up into the top chest and out to the edges of the collarbones. Keeping your chest well lifted and broad, take a few seconds longer to exhale your breath than you normally would. Moving from the top chest, through each individual rib, through the abdomen, into that base of the pelvis. And then just go back to normal breathing. Called Viparita Karani. That's a very soothing, restorative pose. It's a great one to work in your life every day if you can. All right, and then from Viparita Karani, we're going to transition into Shavasana. So just bend your knees, push yourself away from the wall, and do whatever version of Shavasana, corpse pose, feels good to you. Maybe you want to have your legs still up on the chair. Maybe you want to have your chest supported by a bolster. Maybe you just want to be flat on the floor. Maybe you want to stay in legs up the wall pose a few moments longer. All that's totally fine. Just settle into your final pose of the class, which is Shavasana of some sort. And then just go through that same process of relaxing your senses of perception. Let the eyes release into the back of your head. Let your tongue release away from the roof of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Let the back of the throat release. Let the sides of the throat release. Let the base of the throat release. Let your ears draw inward. And just become quiet within. You be in that space of your inner self. Patanjali tells us that yoga is the practice of stilling the fluctuations of the mind. He goes on to say that when that happens, we come to dwell in the space of our own true splendor. That's the aim of yoga, to be in that space, to be in the space of who you truly essentially are. Be in that space. Abide there. And if you find yourself or your thoughts drifting away from that, it's totally fine. It's just the way that the mind and human consciousness works. But see if you can use your breath and bring yourself back to that space of your true self. If you're coaxing just a little bit more time to touch that seat of your true self, to touch that infinite being within. Now, from that seat of your true self, from the space of your own true splendor, inhale. Consciously use your inhalations to bring that awareness of your true self with you as you go about your work in the world. If you're in legs up the wall pose still, bend your knees, push yourself away from the wall, and roll over to your right side. If you're in Shavasana, just roll over to your right side. And then everyone, use your hands and push yourself back up. Sit up straight and tall. Lift your chest well and close your palms. Fold your palms together at your heart and close your eyes. Just take a few moments here and observe the effect that your practice has on you. Observe it on every layer of your being, from the physical to the most deeply spiritual. In gratitude to the benefit you receive from your practice of yoga, in gratitude to the people who have the opportunity to learn and study and practice yoga with, and in gratitude to the lineage of Hatha Yoga itself, is practiced by BKS Iyengar, reaching back to the sages of India and down through a line of teachers and students to you here on the mat in Austin, Texas, or Waco, Texas, or wherever you happen to be in the world through the miracle of Zoom. Namaste. Happy Thursday, everyone.
Happy Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See some of y'all Saturday.
Thank you, Ann.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Ann.
Good to see everyone. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right.